probably one of the best heat waves we've ever had. The idea that the weather could actually be dialed in to be just perfect for anything you want to do. So if you're looking for something at the beach, go for it. If you're looking to just hang out, go get something to eat, go out. This is the time, especially before any of the humidity starts kicking in, and I'm sure it's going to happen sooner or later, so just be ahead of it. So something else we saw in the news today, which was an incredible story that we got out of leaked information, that the government has been well aware of the pandemic that's been happening. And some of the wording in this is a little bit weird. Reports of people who are basically, they use the word rabid and some other things, but the way they word it does not sound like a rabid person. Usually when you think of somebody who's rabid, you think of them as crazy, foaming at the mouth, flopping around, you know, a lot of that stuff. And that was the thing that we kind of worried about before, was that some of the stuff that we're seeing could be some sort of odd new drug that's on the street. And that's what's been kind of alluded to, was that there's something going around. I don't want to bring up any of the drugs out there because I don't want anybody who is actually thinking about going to do something to look some of the stuff up to try it out. It's not good stuff, to be honest. And not to say that that stuff doesn't exist. All the time we're seeing new drugs hit the street that are made in a lab someplace that I'm going to say they don't have the best medical practices involved with creating this stuff, with the intentions of getting high. So I don't want to rule out things, and obviously bath salts is a huge thing that's been all over the place, but it is a huge problem, and I don't want to undermine that problem. But what we're seeing in this documentation tells us that somebody or something is having an issue well beyond that. Issues of trance-like behavior, people with, I guess, cataract-like eyes, so whitening of their eyes, unable to respond to commands or be told, you know, what to do, and that they're doing some research on this in and outside of everything that's going on right now. So these leaked emails came out, and the wording on them was basically just that they were aware of the situation, that it wasn't a shock, and that it was something that they were looking into, and that they actually had some bodies or some cadavers that were associated with whatever this is, and we're doing research on it. And words like reanimation had been put around. So a lot of people, again, this could be hyperbole. It could be something that people leaked. I don't want to say that anybody's trolling. We live in a world of the internet where people like to create things. They like to be creative. They don't like to listen to the status quo. So I don't want to rule out that this is something that hasn't been created or done in a way to make people react to it. In other words, it could have been somebody who is vested in having something like this happen and have people go crazy trying to figure out what it is. And that's not something we want to feed into. But the thing is that when we brought this up to like the government, to the politicians, to anybody that would listen to us, and we brought it up to them, nobody wanted to comment on it. And what we're seeing from basically the mainstream media on this is that they are basically just shooting it down. They're not addressing the situation at all. And I think that's kind of frightening. I don't know if that's something that... I don't see the benefit of covering something like this up. The big news stations, you would think this would be a huge story. That, you know, here we have somebody who's majorly internalized into our healthcare system, working directly with organizations like the CDC, civic emergency systems, working directly with all of them to make sure that our health and well-being are important. And here they are saying we're well aware of something and we're trying to get ahead of it, but nothing's being said. So I don't know where that goes from here. I don't know what other reports we have to do with it. I don't know what research we have to do to get this uncovered, but it almost feels to me like we need to figure it out, because it's not getting smaller, it's getting bigger, and the information that we're getting is becoming more and more predominant, not less and less predominant. And that's the thing is the mainstream media stuff is not being reported. Nobody on major news stations are covering these events, and I'm under the impression that the majority of our population probably has no inclination of knowing what is even happening right now. And that's kind of frightening. That to me tells me that uses the word cover up on something. So I don't want to say that all of this is completely fake. I don't want to say it's real. I want to say that we have something that we need to be aware of. We discussed in the past about making sure that, if SHTF moments happen, that you should always be aware of things and be vested in your own health and safety. Those are huge things, and anybody should be a part of that. So if you're having questions about, basically, I'm going to use the word prepping and putting things together. In other words, having a go bag, putting things together like food, water, shelter, buying a tent, maybe considering a generator, all this other stuff. This is something that people are going to start buying, and we are already seeing those increased sales right now because of some of the people that are seeing this information. Do I think that people are going to follow that advice? No. I think that for the most part, we are animals of habit, and I think that we go about our business every day, and we don't really have time in our 40 to 80 hour work weeks, which obviously aren't getting any shorter, that we have these long work weeks, and the more we work, the more we're getting to the point of just focusing on what we have to do to please our bosses, to please our spouses, to please even, I want to say, our politicians, and driving down the road, the police, or any of that. We're doing a lot of extra effort in other places, and we can't really focus on our own personal safety. We're expecting somebody else to do that, and now the people that are supposed to be looking after that safety are not being a part of that safety, and I'm guessing that the media that normally protects us is not even vested in looking into it. So these are the cover-ups that you have to deal with in your life. These are the things that really just start happening that never get addressed, or they don't seem as something big. And I'm sure that for some people, this kind of is one of those things that'll just pass. Like a lot of people have actually said the information that they're hearing is not real. They're just saying it doesn't exist, that it's something like rabies, or it's some kind of systematic thing that just is going to go away after a certain amount of time. And maybe they're true. If that happens, good on them. I hope that all happens, and I hope it goes exactly the way they're thinking. But from what we're seeing from here, it's just something that we're going to have to keep an eye on, and we're going to have to keep you abreast of. So thank you guys for dialing in right now. We're going to be moving on to the big story today in sports.